We played nearly 50 co-op games together, but it's been a while since we focused on that on this channel. That's about to change starting today.
This is the first episode of our new series where you can join us on our journey through the co-op games we've played together. We're going to break down the co-op experience, what worked, what didn't, and which games truly made the most of playing together.
We've also made it our mission to 100% complete every game we play, so we'll be talking about how enjoyable or painful that process was too.
This episode kicks off with the first 6 co-op games we played together as a team of 2 and sometimes a team of 3, covering the gameplay, co-op mechanics, and of course, the achievement grind.
So let's check out the games. Hey, what's going on everyone? I'm Rumble.
And I'm Scarole.
And let's talk co-op games today. It's like one of our favorite aspects of gaming overall. Like we love playing co-op, and hopefully some of these games that we talk about today, we can inspire you guys to play some of them as well, or at least give a different perspective of it.
Yeah, or some of our opinions might make you stay away from some of the co-op games too.
Yeah, I think that's definitely possible, yeah. So let's start with the first game, the very first game that we played together. And that game was
Overcooked. So Overcooked was developed by Ghost Town Games. It was published by Team 17 in 2016. It's a cooking simulator kind of party game.
The very first Overcooked, which was, very hyped at the time, I think, for being this typical co-op, local co-op party game.
Yeah, one of the reasons I think Overcooked got so famous is it brought back the magic of couch co-op. At a time when online multiplayer was really taking over all other games, Overcooked went back old school and they said, bring everyone back to the couch and let's play co-op.
And I think a lot of people, including us, we were looking for that local co-op experience again. And I think that's why it was such a hit, not just for us, but commercially and good sales across the board. And I think a lot of people really enjoyed it. And it was kind of notorious as well for being the ultimate test for couples, at least. I don't know how it was with friendships, but they always joked about the whole, hey, if you can make it through this, your relationship is pretty solid.
Yep, exactly. And I do think it was a pretty good test for that, because while this game is very cute and it is about like cooking food and whatnot, it is difficult. I mean, there are so many difficult parts. You play the first couple levels and you might think, okay, sure, this is good. I can do this,
Warm up, yeah.
Yeah, warm up, exactly. Then suddenly your kitchen turns into Gordon Ramsay style. Like one of you have to be shouting orders at each other in order to make it through. You have to be like, who's got this? I'm bringing over the chicken, chop the chicken, throw the chicken.
Yeah, because it starts off very simple. And, I think we both talk about this a lot with Overcooked 1 and 2. We mix them up a lot, but I think that in recent years, Overcooked 2 gets a lot more attention than the first one.
Yeah.
So, and I think this game was a little bit simpler as well. Instead of focusing on making the recipes difficult, it was more about the levels being a huge obstacle course, basically. And then, yeah, you're right. You had to call out orders and say, I need chicken, I need burritos, whatever it was. Then I think it's very frantic, of course, very chaotic. And it's relying on the co-op experience, I feel, because I know you can play it solo and switch characters, which I think both of us tried.
Yeah.
And I don't like it.
No.
I don't like it at all.
It was so much more difficult, and you would forget that one of your characters was sitting over there chopping things, and it's not as easy at all. You need at least 2 people, I feel, to really make this game enjoyable.
Yeah, and you can do up to 4 people, I believe, in this game. So, I don't think we ever tried it with 4, but 2 is absolutely enough. It's you don't need 4. I'm curious now how 4-player co-op is. It's probably more frantic and
more chaotic.
Probably, yeah. So, I mean, but like you said earlier, emphasizes, the communication. You really have to talk to each other and make sure that you get the right orders in the correct order and then get them out on time. So,
and I like that we had to coordinate so much on each level to get all 3 stars. However, there's some levels that are not as easy at all.
Once you kind of get settled in, you get comfortable with this game, then they do crank it up a little bit in some of these levels where you have to press a button to be able to do dishes. And that's typically where I saw the game got frustrating, is when you have a good groove and you're like, oh, damn, now we don't have any plates. Now we've got to do dishes. And then it's only on one side of the level where one person might be and the other one doesn't have access to it. But I think that's just kind of part of the experience, right? Like, I think a lot of people think that this is going to be a very easy co-op game and stuff, but I think we found that as a first game. I think it was a good entry point for us, but it did definitely scale after a while. Yeah, when there's a good amount of difficult levels here, but it feels like a very wholesome game still. There's no I was gonna say there's no violence or anything. Of course, there's nothing fishy going on there, except for maybe putting raw meat on the floor and then still putting it in the pot. That's the only shady thing that goes on here. But overall, yeah, I think this one got pretty high marks from both of us.
And so what did you think, though, about the achievements in this game?
So we did get all achievements in this game, 1,000 out of 1,000. But the interesting story about this is I got these achievements first, and at the time you weren't really into achievements. It wasn't until we played the second game here we'll talk about shortly, and then we went back here and completed it for you as well, because there's like a weird, I don't think it's a bug, but if you don't do the prologue by yourself but then you jump in a game, you actually don't earn progress towards the 3 stars. So that's what we had to do for you. We had to do the prologue and then play through all of the 3 stars. So we actually did 3 stars twice in this game.
Yes, we got really good.
We got pretty good at this game, I would say. Yeah. So, but it's not many games I could go through and help someone and just be like, hey, this is cool. But this was definitely one of those games, I would say. The actual completion really depends mostly on the 3 stars. That's the hardest part about this. The rest of them, there's only 11 achievements in this game. And no DLC really that has, there's a couple of DLC packs, but doesn't have extra achievements or anything like that. But it is really, getting the 3 stars that's the most important.
Yep.
And then, the final boss is a little bit tricky, I will say.
I think getting 3 stars on the final boss was challenging. I remember that challenging us quite a bit, because I do remember doing that final boss fight quite a few times.
Yeah, we definitely didn't get it on the first try.
No, so that was not a first try.
And it's tricky because that's where it really mixes everything that you had made in the entire game, and then it does the time limit. I think it's a slightly longer level, because these levels are, I don't know, 3 to 5 minutes, something like that. So, but the final boss is much longer, of course. But I will say, besides the 3 stars, everything else is just like you finish a level in each world and then you do some various things. But it's basically just the 3 stars. Otherwise, I think this one is pretty straightforward and to get the 1,000.
What I liked about it as well, like we said, simple in the gameplay, but also simple in the achievements. So you knew what you were going for, and it was
lots of story-related achievements and a small achievement list, so very manageable, I would say.
Yep, I agree with that. So the funny thing with the next game, though, is we didn't start with the first one. We moved on to Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 2, which was developed by PopCap Games, published by EA, or Electronic Arts, in 2016 also, same as Overcooked. And this is a third-person shooter, kind of like tower defense game.
I mean, you'd played the Plants vs. Zombies game on mobile and maybe on the DS, maybe on the 360 as well. I didn't have much experience with this before, so this is obviously very different from the original mobile games. And I think I had so many friends around that time. I played a lot of Xbox multiplayer and went for a lot more achievements than I do now, really. And they were trying to talk me into playing this game. And I was like, no way. I'm avoiding this like the plague. And I'm not a big fan of the multiplayer only games, especially as we've seen with this game. When we recorded gameplay, it took, 26 minutes to load up the game in the beginning, because I had to contact the only 2 people that works for EA that turns the servers on for this game still. They have to let us into the actual server. But yeah, besides that though, I mean, thoughts about this game? Because, it is very different, I think, than what we would expect to play.
I mean, for me, I think then I would say you almost played this game more so for me, because you knew again that it was like a cute game, and you knew I like cute games. Also, you knew I was already a fan of the other Plants vs. Zombie game. And so, yeah, I think you looked into it and you found out that we could do most of it, just the 2 of us, allowing maybe some randoms to play with us on some occasions, So I remember you looked into it to make sure it wasn't like Fortnite, just total MMO kind of thing, and it was. So, I mean, the funny thing with this game is when we went back and recorded this gameplay, I I have fun. Like, I have fun in this game.
It is one of those games that I knew we would have fun with it. But, as we'll get to in a couple minutes here, I think if you're casually playing PvZ, Garden Warfare in particular, you'll have a great time with it because it's just, you can jump in, you have your backyard, you can just roam around and mess around. You can go into multiplayer, and you also have the horde mode. I think it's called like the garden ops and the graveyard ops, depending on what side you're on. And I think we both liked the character customization. You had sticker packs even, although it's like the worst thing you can do is have like, virtual sticker packs like in real life.
Yeah.
And you get so addicted to like, I need to unlock more stuff and I need more characters and costumes and whatever. But I think it was fun. We would switch sides, and then we had favorites, for both the plants and the zombies. But I think you like the plants more than the zombies, I guess.
I did like the plants more than the zombies, and I like those. I mean, the thing about the sticker packs is, yes, you could buy them with real money, but also I think...
It is EA after all, microtransactions. Yeah.
But I felt like they gave them out for free enough to like satisfy that craving for me. I always felt like when I booted up the game, it was pretty frequent that we had a sticker pack waiting for us in the mailbox or something, So, and it was fun, fun game to play, I think, overall.
Yeah, but, and I think when we jumped into just to record gameplay, not long ago, it was fun because we had literally a random join us, and we're pretty high level at this point, and they were probably excited. It's just kind of anytime you start a game fresh and you jump into a multiplayer session, you see someone who's like high level, you're like, yes, they're gonna carry me through this kind of thing. So I mean, we did finish that whole session, although we were just trying to record some gameplay. But I'm sure for that person it was like awesome in 2025 to just jump in
and still playing this game.
Exactly. So I agree with you there. Just casually jumping in, this kind of game is also a good entry point, I would say. Alongside something like Overcooked, just to play with friends, Obviously, you still have to play online, I believe. It's an online required game. So that's kind of, I would say, the one thing I don't like, because if they do shut down the servers here, you can't play this game. So that we'll get to that when it comes to the achievements too. But once they shut down stuff, like you lose out on so much of the game. And that's a huge issue. But otherwise, like you said, we enjoyed playing this game together, and it's probably a good segue into the achievements now. Because that's where this game doesn't shine as much, I would say.
I would say if we were to talk about what we didn't like about the game as much, it's the achievements.
It's the achievements, yeah. If you don't go for achievements, you'll probably have a great time with this game. Just like I said, casually jump in from time to time. If you have some friends that really like it, some younger family members, they would probably love a game like this.
Yeah, because I think that it is more simple than Is it Neighborville is the newest one?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So I think this game, I think Neighborville is a little bit more complex, maybe a little too big in a lot of ways for me, to where this game felt a little bit more manageable. And I think, for younger players especially, I feel like this is where I would start,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think this is a fun one. But they're probably not going to go for achievements because, as we know here, we haven't gotten all the achievements in this game, and we can't because they have unobtainables. So we did, in fact, get the so-called platinum. We did get the 1000 G. However, there's like DLC that got unobtainables because of events that they removed. Which, we desperately tried to get it in time.
We did. And we knew the last event that was happening.
Yeah.
We attended it. We refused to pay any money to help us, though.
Yeah, but it was just kind of the stupid, what was it, the pumpkin?
Like a Halloween
event. And that's like, I don't know how many years ago, like 5 years ago maybe?
Yeah, probably.
And I know people are still trying to see if they'll bring it back. And they have brought some events back. But, that's one of those things I mentioned earlier. Once they shut things down, it's just gone forever, and they're not going to bring it back on an old game like this. And that's very sad. That's very unfortunate because it was probably the most populated this game has ever been right before they shut those events down. I think we had zero issues getting into a game at that point. So, but it's nice to meet different people. We call them randoms, obviously, but it's a lot of cool people you meet when you play these types of games.
And you get to see people's personalities with the characters that they choose and the way that they modify their characters. And, it's... I mean, overall fun, but the achievements kind of ruined this game for us, I think.
It is a very grindy game, obviously, like all of the PvZ games are. And this one is outside of the boss hunts that I mentioned here. Promote a character 5 times, and then,
Even
depending
bigger
on...
grind.
Yeah. So that takes quite a while. But, there's some fun game modes to do it in at least. But, yeah, it is a huge grind. All of these types of multiplayer games, as I'm sure most people will know, are... It's just all about the grind, you know. So,
but and if mastering all the different characters and their moves and things like that. So
they want you to spend only your time and money on games like this. But that's why they have the grind. So they're hoping for the microtransactions to kick in, and people will be like, "I'm tired of this. I'm just going to pay up," and then get to that point. But like you said, we never fell for that kind of stuff. So we just would earn it the hard way. And but I think just. At least you could mess around in your backyard versus, something like the first PvZ game. I think you had to do everything with people and stuff. So, there's still some fun to be had. But achievement-wise, this was a very low score for me. This is not recommended to go for achievements now. Yeah. And besides, you can't even complete the game.
Yep. Yeah. But if you're going for casual, it's a great game. Now, this next one is not one I would have ever expected to be playing. But you talked me into it, and that is Zombie Army Trilogy. Developed by Rebellion Developments. It was released in 2015. It's a third-person shooter horror game. And that's why this is a drastic change from the last two we just talked about.
I just think the other 2 games were too cute for me. So I just had to crank it up to the zombie hordes.
Yes.
And obviously, I had played, not obviously, but I had played Sniper Elite games in the past. And then I had actually started this game, well before we played it, but I didn't have a co-op partner. So I was just kind of like, hey. This has co-op. This is kind of designed for co-op. And somehow I managed to talk you into playing a third-person... a little bit first person because of the sniping, of course. Zombie horde game. It's that's basically what it's all about. You fight the hordes, and you go through
Nazi
Berlin.
Zombies.
Yeah, exactly. You go through Germany fighting the zombies, and just initial thoughts stuff from you, because obviously this is not a cutesy game. I thought maybe that a third person game would be better, since I know that you play a lot of RPGs, obviously, and very few of them are first person, right? And mostly third person. So, what were your initial thoughts about this game when we started playing it?
Well, I think first off, you're right in going with the third person shooter approach because that felt more comfortable for me. Nick's thoughts were, wow, this is gritty and bloody, and oh my gosh, are those body parts shooting off of this person basically? And I was surprised, but the controls for this game are really top notch for me personally. I mean, I just feel like this game feels very natural. It's easy just to get into it. It's easy to get into the controls and to get your character to do what you want them to do when you want them to do, basically, which I know might not make sense to some people, but you know what I mean? There's just no delay, right? You're able to...
solid, tight controls,
So I think that's what really got me into it, was being like, okay, the controls. I like the controls of this game. And then I got over the whole bloody and gory and everything part and just really started enjoying the gameplay.
There's no hiding the fact that Rebellion has kind of become our favorite developer publisher for co-op games, and so I'm like, hey, Rebellion, call us up. We'll do a co-op game for you.
We'll do a co-op game.
Because just you'll see that in this whole series. There's a lot of Rebellion games that will show up here, and that's partially because I've also been a big fan of them for a while. They didn't always make great games, but once they got the Sniper Elite and all the co-op games down, I think they're one of the best indie developers to publish these types of games. So,
I think I was a huge fan of them. After we played Zombie Army, it made me be like, okay, I would play more of this developer's games. It's great
to have a co-op game that feels right. You know, it feels appropriate. And you can play this with 4 people, but, you know, we felt like 2 people was, you know, more than enough. I think for our son, this was a little bit too much. So, yeah, it wasn't, you know, it's a lot of blood and a lot of guts and gore. So, but, you know, you kind of get used to that as well. But obviously keep that in mind if you are sensitive to that. You know, I don't know if there's an option to turn that off.
No, I don't think there is an option for that in this game. I remember we looked into that. And so, yeah, you have to be ready for that part of it, but really like solid gameplay. It's also funny. That's what I think surprised me about this game is I played some Resident Evil games, but I don't feel like Resident Evil is intending to be funny, even though sometimes it might be.
I don't think so.
It's very serious, and this game is campy. It's kind of silly. It has funny achievements even in this game. So,
but my favorite part about this, because they took some of the, you know, characters' cutscenes from Sniper Elite and the DLC that was basically the zombie army stuff. And the cutscene, they don't say anything. So there's no dialogue between the kids. They're just sitting there, and then you just kind of go to the next section. So it was clearly not designed to be a full game. It's kind of more of an arcade style. But they're like, hey, let's put some cutscenes in here. So it looks like it's at least part of the game. But that's what made it, like you said, a little bit more campy. And
it's true. Or almost like a B horror movie.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. For sure.
But you know what? They gave me some female characters to play, which I liked as well. So that made me feel good that I had some female characters to play as. And I mean, I think that, you know, that's all the stuff that we really like about the game. But what would you say you didn't like about this game?
I mean, it can get a little bit repetitive, I would say, with the horde mode, just like any kind of, I wouldn't say arena style, but you know that you get to an area and then you'll get a certain amount of zombies pouring in and you'll get to the church and, you know, you have to defend it. So that's the only thing that gets a little bit repetitive, but that's the game though. So that's, you know what to expect of it. And I don't know, since you hadn't played too many of those types of games, I guess you could argue that since we went from Plants vs. Zombies, you know, this was kind of the same, not quite tower defense, but it still had the horde mode, right? You still have that kind of stuff. So I think that's the only thing, but, you know, as you had mentioned before too, and just really tight controls and really good co-op, you know, I mean, that's really the, at the core of this, that you can play with someone else. Because I think I played, since I started it solo, I did not like this game solo. So I would say that's another part I don't like is that it's not as enjoyable to play alone.
Okay.
So definitely you need to have one or more people playing with you to make this an enjoyable game.
I think the one thing that you didn't mention, and I wish you would have, that I don't like about this game is the suicide zombies.
Oh, no. Yeah.
When they run towards me, like, I remember hearing their yells or their screams for, like, hours after we'd be done playing. I'd be laying in my bed and I would swear I would hear them running at me.
Well, we would play it late at night too, so it's like the last thing you hear is like, because there's at least a couple of levels that the suicide zombies are just so, they're everywhere.
Aggressive and they just keep on coming at you.
So I can, so there's a good amount of those special zombie types, but it's more about like just the regular zombies, but then you have the special zombies that make it much harder, of course, you know. So I would say they're pretty memorable though, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when it comes to achievements, how do you feel about the achievements in this game?
Yeah, let's talk about achievements. I love talking about achievements. So especially since we do them together, then it's more fun to talk about. Fun fact about this was your first completion on Xbox. This is kind of what got you into doing achievements. So for me, this is a special game. And I don't know if it is a special game for you due to that, but like just knowing that
this is the first game that I really was like, you know what, I want that completion. And I remember that last achievement that I needed. I had to do that one alone, and I did. And it was a huge grind, but it was because I knew I just needed one more achievement to get a full completion. So I totally went for it. But like, I remember making dinner, and then after dinner, I would just get started on that 10,000 limb. What is it? 10,000 limb
10,000 limbs. Yeah. I mean, that's quite the grind. But you got pretty good with the preacher in the end, though. So that's like, just pick up the preacher, just wait for a whole horde to come towards you, and then go at it. But I mean, it's not a small task. This game has 68 achievements. So that's, you know, a good amount of them. A good amount of them are going to be story related and related to weapons and types of kills and all that kind of stuff. But I would say probably the hardest one we did, which I thought was one of the most fun as well. We did the campaign on the hardest difficulty. We did all of the levels, but then we would just keep it open for people to join. So they would just jump in our game. So they helped us from time to time. So in those sections where we may have needed more than 2 people, that was awesome. There was like drop in, drop out, and some of them joined for multiple sessions and everything. And that was really cool. I really enjoyed that. And, we got to it in the end, and, final boss, which was probably Hitler, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So zombie Hitler, as always.
Hitler.
Yeah, Rebellion loves doing things with Hitler, I guess. So that's how it goes.
They do. I think one of the achievements that stands out to me, too, is the one where we had to line the skeletons up, I think, and like shoot 5 skeletons through the heart or something like that.
It was like getting a 5 in a row. And I remember we kind of had to redo that a couple of times. But it was like a place that you could line them up on inside this kind of bunker. And
and you have me, like, you're trying to like tutor me through it and tell me like, here's where you need to go. And I'm just like probably yelling and screaming, and like I'm scared of them all the time.
Yeah, well, it's funny though. It's like we're telling the story, but if you don't do achievements, I mean, you probably couldn't tell a story like that, right? Because it's not. I'm not saying that everyone needs to do achievements, but just think about it. Yeah, if you have a developer asking you to do random things like that, then it becomes like a weird story that you can tell and remember the game a little bit differently, So
it's true, and I think that's why maybe this game was the first one that really make me start getting into achievements and into completions, is because I saw that it helped me see other aspects of the game that I probably wouldn't pay any attention to if it wasn't for achievements telling me, hey, try this or try that or do this to this enemy, I think it's also like, didn't you have to shoot a sniper through its scope or
stuff like that. It's very creative, it's good variety in the achievement list here.
Yeah, so that's why in this one, I think achievements actually enhanced the game for me.
Yeah, made it much more replayable as well, because then we would go get the collectibles, and then we'd play it on the harder difficulty, and you really get to play the game. You really get to see all aspects of it. And I would say, although there's a lot of achievements in this game, I would do it over again. Yeah. I would play this again with all the achievements. So.
Yeah, Rebellion, if you want to remaster this one again,
they should. Absolutely, that's a great idea.
We're down.
But we did get all the achievements in this game, 1,000 out of 1,000, so that was great. So we're back on track after Plants vs. Zombies.
Yep, we sure were. Next up is Cuphead, developed by Studio MDHR, was released in 2017. This is a run and gun and boss rush, like mainly a lot of bosses in this game. That's all you're really doing.
It's pretty much a boss fight game. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that surprised me a little bit, because we had seen clips before we played this game, and I'd seen some of the running gun, which I thought was kind of more of a traditional platformer, but
I thought this was going to be a platformer, totally.
Yeah, it's very different. Yeah, so I think a very unique game. I feel this is I think very well beloved. It's a beloved game, whatever you want to call it, running gun platformer, boss game. And obviously has that cartoon style 1930s Mickey Mouse cartoon thing, and
looks amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very impressed. I mean, I definitely recommend checking out the was it like a documentary that they did, kind of showing that one brother was more of the artist and the other one was the programmer and stuff. So
and I think one of the wives became like the project manager to keep this all on track.
I mean, that makes sense why things have taken so long, because they're a pretty small team that made this happen. But wow, it's very visually impressive, and every time we go back to this game too, it's just like I really enjoy the aesthetics. I really enjoy the gameplay and everything. And but we have to say, as a co-op game, at least if we were to start with that, this actually is harder in co-op, I would say. It's not to say that it's impossible to play it, of course, in co-op.
No.
But with the amount of stuff on screen, this is very challenging, in my opinion.
Yeah, if you're trying to dodge the enemy's bullets, raindrops, whatever the heck they're throwing at you, seeds, and then you also have your teammates like bullets going everywhere, and you can modify, the types of guns that you're using. So therefore, your teammates' bullets could be all sorts of different colors than your own bullets, and it makes it really challenging to know what the heck am I dodging, and yeah, there's definitely more challenge when you add another person to it, even though it was obviously made as a co-op game.
My biggest gripe with this one when you're playing in co-op is when you parry
Yeah.
and it has that stutter on the screen. So if you're mid-jump or you're just like, I just dodged a spike or like some flying object, then you just kind of stuck and then you tend to take damage and that could be your last life or whatever. But I do like the upgrades you can get. At least you can add an extra heart. You can do the smoke bomb, and now in the newest DLC, which we can touch on briefly as well, you can play as Miss Chalice finally, which I know you immediately picked her.
Yeah, because you get access to like her double jump ability and parry with her dash, basically.
Yeah, dash parry, yeah.
Which is really helpful, but also takes some getting used to when you've been used to playing as like Cuphead or Mugman the entire time. You have to get used to now Miss Chalice's moves too. It is incredibly difficult, but for some reason it makes it feel like it's just out of your grasp. Like, you can do it, even though you just keep dying. And you might die so many
die a lot in
times.
this game,
You die a lot. But you keep on rebooting that same boss level up or that same run and gun level up because you know it's possible. You know you can do it. It's in you.
I mean, you have to practice.
Yes.
I would say it's probably what turns people off of this game quickly is the steep learning curve because it's definitely not one of those where you can jump to the hardest difficulty. I still think you have to unlock it through regular, but even if you had the option to go to the hardest, it's not recommended because you don't know the patterns, you don't know the controls yet, and you haven't unlocked everything yet. So that's what I tried to do, and I hated this game at first. I did not like this game at all.
Yeah.
I almost refused to go back to it, and then I just realized that, you know what? I don't think this is the type of game that you can take shortcuts, like you have to practice and you have to get good. And
like an old school game, really.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, old school games used to be like that. When you died, you died. That was it, you know?
And this is genuinely a very, very difficult game when you start out. But then once you practice, and especially if you practice alone, you'll realize that there's a pattern to it, just like a Dark Souls game, right? Like you learn the patterns of the enemies and you learn the types of moves that you can use on each boss. And, I think I did some of those run and gun levels with the smoke bomb or whatever, just like in no time in the end, So once you learn the best strategies, then this game, I wouldn't say it's a cakewalk, but it becomes so much easier.
Yes.
But you can't take shortcuts by any means. And I would almost recommend practicing this game solo before you play co-op because for those reasons you said earlier, it's just kind of there's too much stuff on the screen.
It's too chaotic for sure. So practice alone and then jump into co-op together.
Yep. Okay, so let's talk achievements, my favorite. And this game is no small task either, I would say. So we both have at least the full 1,000.
Yeah.
And of course, 17 years later when the DLC came out, we weren't quite ready for it. Like I think we started it and we have a couple of achievements in it, but we haven't fully dived into the Miss Chalice DLC, or what's it called? The Delicious Last Course.
Yep, the Delicious Last Course.
And so there's, obviously new achievements there. You can play as Miss Chalice and new bosses. And I think from what I've read, it's actually much harder and more complicated, more complex
boss
moves and stuff. Yeah, because she has like a different play style than Mugman and Cuphead. So it's... I think it's going to be brutal, but I would almost say that we practice solo and then probably play it in co-op later.
Yeah.
And we'll see. But there's like 1,500 gamer score, 42 achievements in this game total. But we've at least gotten the platinum so far, but not, which is no small task either, that you have...
I mean, I remember with the achievements, I would say the funny thing about doing a hard game like this in co-op is you tend to carry each other, meaning that one of you might die and the other one just has to carry on. But if one of you can at least beat that level or beat that boss, you both get the achievement, basically.
Yeah. Keyword clutch in this game. Yeah. If the co-op partner dies, then you have to pull a clutch performance to pull through. And
sometimes that's a lot of pressure because you might be right at the end and you guys are so close to beating that boss. And then you just watch your co-op partner go down and you go, crap, it's all on me. I got to pull this off.
I mean, there's so many times you play played the King Dice boss, and it was just not the boss, it's like the multiple mini bosses leading up to it, and then obviously the devil, he can be a little bit of little bit of a pain. But yeah, and I think the expert is definitely the toughest, to get all of these bosses. But again, practice. I think the expert stuff, I wouldn't say I got S ranks on every boss, but there's a couple I got S ranks in the end, and then we just focused on getting through it on expert and co-op, you know. So there definitely is, and it has a good variety in those bosses too, with the flying levels, and then you have the just the regular levels in a sense. And I thought just really good, well thought out bosses in this one.
Oh yeah, amazing.
And then I would say a couple of other ones to be on the lookout for is the run and gun level. You have to at least do one without killing any enemies.
Yep, I remember that.
And then obviously, it sounds difficult, but if you do the root pack, I think the vegetables in the beginning, you can get through that one without taking damage pretty easily.
Yep.
But it is, it's tricky to go through most of these levels and bosses without taking damage.
So I think all in all, I think the achievements are doable. I don't know that they enhanced the game so much for me, but they did drive me to keep going.
If you really want to get good at the game, then following the achievements will definitely get you there.
Yeah.
So final thoughts, game is great.
Game is great.
Achievements kind of suck.
Achievements kind of suck, and co-op can be difficult too.
Yeah.
So I think this one's kind of a difficult co-op game, I would say.
And we still need to play the DLC, so let's practice and let's get back into it.
Yeah. Now we are on to Strange Brigade. This was developed by Rebellion Development. It was released in 2018. It's another third-person shooter, but this one also has like action, adventure, and puzzles in it too.
Another game that I think we tried solo a couple of times too. It's not that from the start we played co-op, but it's obviously not as fun single player on this one either. But yeah, rightfully so. Like the puzzles in here are a pretty big part of the gameplay.
Yeah, it actually is. And it is, I guess, like Indiana Jones, like a 1930s adventure game, but with lots of supernatural, mythological enemies in it as well. So
yeah, this one's more about the mummies rather than the zombies. So Rebellion's like, let's make a mummy game instead of a zombie game. And I mean, to be fair, this is one of the games we were really looking forward to. After seeing it on, I would say a E3 again or something like that, where they announced this, and we had just played Zombie Army Trilogy, so we were naturally very excited for this one.
Yeah, and also an interesting thing about this one is it doesn't have all the blood and gore because the enemies are these like mummies usually, they're skeleton. So this was one that we were able to actually like play a little bit with our son too.
Yep. He in particular liked the melee, the punching. Yeah, exactly. So it's a very funny experience with him where he would get down so many times because he would just go straight into combat and then he would get swarmed by all the mummies and go down. And I think you got the revive achievement much faster than you would expect because of that.
Yeah, and he was like, screw the guns, I'm going in with my fist and my fist only.
And obviously, I mean, this is has a really funny narrator. I know it wasn't for everyone. I know that it was kind of a mixed bag, but we loved it. We thought it was just, it made this game so cheesy and so funny. Not to mention, like, I think our favorite part of this was the cat collectibles. Yes. Just how much he didn't like cats in a sense.
God,
but we obviously love cats, so for us it was hilarious.
Yeah, the narrator hated the cat, so that was like a funny part, hearing what he had to say every time we found one of the blue cats.
Yeah.
I think the characters that you had to choose from were very inconventional. They're not your normal characters to like choose from. I mean, I think like, what am I playing? Some Scottish farmer girl?
You're definitely, yeah. And I think I'm just kind of playing not the basic guy, but the first guy you could pick, basically. And he has like a long distance. You were more of the shotgun, I believe.
I'm a Scottish farmer girl.
Yeah.
I did not see that coming. I mean, she looks like Rosie the Riveter, but she's a Scottish farmer girl.
Yeah, it's hilarious. But I think the weird thing about this game, which I found interesting, is that although it's a co-op game, it's also kind of competitive because you don't share the resources or the weapons or the ammo. So whoever gets the gold is the only person that gets the gold, for instance. So that was a little bit weird. So it made it slightly competitive as well. But not that we were competitive amongst each other, but it was more like, okay, I got this gold this time, so you should pick this up. But I thought that was a little bit strange. I don't know if that was intentional, but...
Yeah, a little bit more arcade-like, I would say, in that way, too, to where, we're kind of fighting for the resources. There's only one potion, you know, and if you're nice enough, you can say, like, hey, there's a potion over here and you should get it. But otherwise, you could hoard all the potions yourself and be a real not nice fellow.
Especially if you play online with randoms, you know, a couple of randoms. I'm sure they're not going to share their stuff with you.
And exactly. And you're like rushing towards the gold so that you get enough gold and stuff like that. So that part made it a little bit of a different co-op experience. Co-op competitive.
All right, so let's talk about achievements. And we, impressively enough, I would say, we got the full completion in this game, including all DLC. And the DLC is just like a 3-part campaign, which, added more story to the game. And so we were naturally wanting to play more of this game. We're like, we're Strange Brigade 2, so we're just like, let's go get all the DLC.
I still want Strange Brigade 2.
I think this is kind of an underrated game, seriously.
Too.
I think this game is really good.
I really hope we inspire people to go try this game out and try it as co-op as well. I mean, this is it's a super fun experience just through and through, except for maybe a couple of the achievements,
Yeah, I definitely think there's some of the achievements that can be tough. If you're playing solo, you'll have a much harder time because I think in a lot of these games, the difficulty scales. But I don't know if it actually does in this game. So having more people, similar to, Zombie Army, it makes it easier, actually. So there are certain levels, I would say, that are almost recommended or required in co-op because they're very tough, especially on the highest difficulty, which is one of the hardest achievements in this one. But, this is not a local co-op game, so you're going to have to play this online with someone. So, but, this game is relatively cheap as well, I would say.
All the time.
This goes on sale all the time. It's funny because in the beginning, this game never went on sale.
I know.
But now I think you see it even with the DLC. It's like $5 to $10 typically. So this is, I think, a great deal if you can get your hands on it.
But all in all, besides that one hardest difficulty achievement, I thought most of the other ones were very doable. They were fun. Again, helped you explore more of the game. Okay, we're up to the last game on our list, and that is Lovers in a Dangerous Spacetime. This was developed by Asteroid Base in 2015, and it is a action space shooter. I would almost also, can we just have a new genre of just co-op games? Because some games are just made for co-op, and you can tell. And this is one of them, I would say.
This is the perfect, outside of Overcooked, I would say the perfect local co-op game. You can play up to 4 people. We played it with 3, which I think is a good number, but the more the merrier, really, for this one. Because if you play this one solo, I can't even imagine how difficult this would be and how frustrating it would be, especially if you try a little harder difficulties and stuff. But even on a normal difficulty, because you have so many things you have to juggle.
Oh, yeah. You've got, 4 different guns. You've got a special gun. You've got driving. You've got a shield. There's somebody also that needs to check the map every so often, too. So
you can find your little space guys, right? Your little buddies that you have to rescue.
Yeah, rescuing our little buddies from these little prisons.
Yeah, you're the designated driver the whole time. You were driving. Our son, he was mostly on shield. He did a great job. And I was kind of the gunner and running around on all 4 guns. He would just switch over. And this is, I would say it's pretty difficult. Yeah, if you're only doing a couple of, or if you're only doing 2 people on this. Very tough. But it's
doable.
Multitasking at its best. So
yes, this is. And then you get these upgrades, and that's really a fun part of the game as well, is the upgrades that you get. They modify your guns, they modify your shield, they modify your engine, and so it's a fun experimental thing to play with and just see like, oh, you got the metal upgrade. Okay, well, where do you want to put the metal upgrade? You're going to put it on a gun and shoot these little metal balls? You're going to put it on your engine and it just leaves little like mines behind you?
Yeah, that was one of my favorite aspects. I think that you had that choice because you could create some pretty powerful weapons, or like you said, you could do like double metal on your shield and you would create like a huge radius on that, or at least covered more ground. And yeah, I thought it was it's a very unique game. You know, I think it's one game that you had briefly played before with him, but then you're like, hey, this is like co-op extraordinaire local co-op. We need more people.
Yes, we wanted you to join us in our mission because we needed more firepower for sure in order to get through all the levels and the bosses. The bosses are massive in this game, which make it another just fun aspect of this game.
Yeah, and then typically just you have to do, I think there's 4 worlds, right? And or 4 separate levels, and then you have these sub-levels, and you have to save these little characters. They're little buddies, right? Or whatever they're called.
Yeah, like you have on the first world, it's like little bunnies that you're rescuing, and then I think you're rescuing little frogs, and then little foxes.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And so it's like, depends. And then, of course, at the end of those worlds, you unlock that character. And so that's how you get access to being a little frog, or a little bunny, or a little fox.
I don't know if this is a hidden gem by any means, but I still feel like this is one of the best local co-op games that I've played.
I completely agree with that. I would put it in that category. And I'm super bummed that this developer, I think, is no longer making video games, because I would have loved to see what they would come up after this game.
Yeah, last I heard was they were trying to do a port to PC for this game. I don't know if it was on Steam, but at least they were trying to do for Windows and stuff. But yeah, I think they're no longer in business, I think. But I mean, I see this game on sale, and it's a self-published game, so I think it's still available, and they haven't delisted the game. But it's like typically on sale 50% off, like $7.50, you know. So you know, but obviously it's not an online co-op experience. You would need someone in your household that wants to play a game, and it might be a little bit more challenging than some of the other games we mentioned, but I think it's well worth giving this a try.
Yeah, and I do think that young kids can actually play this game. Like we said, like you can put them on shields or something like that, or like it's you as the adult, you may have to take the brunt of the hard work, but still they can help out. So I think this is another good game for even like younger players in your household too.
However, your family members probably wouldn't want to go into the next section with the achievements like we did. And there's only one other game I can say that was local co-op that we might get to at some point that was worse than this one in terms of the achievements. This is no joke. Yeah, we did get all the achievements there, all 1,000 gamer score. Total of 28 achievements on this one. Finished the game with no ship upgrades. All you need is lovers.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we did that one too. I don't think we did it in the same playthrough, but yeah, definitely a very tough one.
Yeah.
And then I think for one of the other tough ones that relied on your impeccable driving was not getting hurt in the level. Don't take any damage.
Right.
That was like you couldn't hit any walls. You couldn't. We had to be so careful with any of the. It was like the craziest thing. But thankfully, the levels, I will say, most of the levels are like, let's say 5-6 minutes long, if that. And so there's not like a 45-minute level. You have to go without taking damage or anything. But yeah, some pretty brutal achievements, I would say, for a game that's so cutesy and you think this is like a very accessible game. But no, this is a pretty challenging game, I would say. Like not just the multitasking, if you add achievements on top of that, and if you have less than 3 people, I would say, this makes it a very, very tough one now.
And due to the difficulty of the achievements, you have to do multiple playthroughs. I mean, you were kind of talking about that, you know, but you can't do it all in one playthrough. You can't not hit anything and not have any upgrades, you know, and rescue all of the little guys all in one go.
I definitely know that our son got frustrated by replaying some of the bosses and stuff, but, you know, I thought it was a incredible experience just to do that as a family. It was crazy. So
yeah, and I just think that that's where I would say yes, more difficult but also more memorable. Like I have those memories of us escaping out of these mazes that we rescued these little bunnies in, and then suddenly the bomb is going off, and I'm trying not to run into any walls on our way out as best as I can.
We have been waiting for a Lovers in Dangerous Spacetime 2. We might never see it, but this one will forever be a very memorable game for us.
Absolutely.
That was it for today, and thanks for joining us on our little co-op adventure. We'll definitely be back with more co-op games in the future.
And if you've played any of these co-op games already, let us know in the comments your thoughts about them. Did you love them? Did you hate them? Let's hear about it.
Until next time, thank you guys for watching.
Bye!